Hi guys, and welcome to the next installment of this video series. In this video today, we're going to be discussing what a week of weight loss looks like, okay? And all the tasks that need to be considered in order to be as efficient as possible in this in your weight loss journey, okay? So a lot of the things we discuss are specific to bodybuilding and physique sports, but you could also utilize these strategies in your own sort of general weight loss endeavors, or even for other sports in which a weight cut is needed. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to stress is that you actually, if you haven't already, go and look at my video on nutrition, because there we sort of set the groundwork for what we need to consider in terms of tracking calories and tracking macronutrients, okay? But considering we all know how to do that and we've got some sort of device or calorie tracking system in place, what we want to go into now is how that all comes together and how we analyze our results week by week and make necessary changes. Okay, so on paper, weight loss is very, very easy. Okay, and I'm just going to go through a quick summary of what it should look like and the actual tasks I did in my bodybuilding prep journey. So a general week, I would have all the calories I can consume from Monday right through to Sunday on an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Next to that, I would also have my weight for the week and my average weight for the week. Okay, and average calories. Now we would look at both of those variables and make changes based on them, okay? There's also other things that would influence the extent of changes, and we're going to discuss that later. But for the most part, you're looking at the trend in calories consumed and weight and making the appropriate changes based off those observations. Okay, so in my case, changing caloric consumption week by week would be determined on the success of the week in terms of weight loss. Okay, so if I was losing on average 1/4 kilogram of weight per week, obviously this depends on how soon you need to lose the weight, but that's said to be a pretty stable and healthy rate of weight loss. If that's occurring, then you probably don't need to change much, okay? Keep it that caloric intake, keep it that macronutrient intake, or whatever's most, allows you to have the most adherence. But for the most part, if you're making progress, then don't do anything drastic, okay? If you're dieting on 3,000 calories and you're losing weight on 3,000 calories, don't change anything. If anything, there's also an argument that you could increase your calories slightly and see if you continue to lose weight, okay? The aim of the game is to lose weight on the most amount of calories possible, okay? Because this is going to help training and it's going to help that overall adherence to the diet, okay? We don't want to be, working excessively hard or going under some sort of incredibly strict regime just for the sake of saying, I follow this really tough dieting approach. Okay, we want to be as pragmatic and logical about this as possible. So going off that example of 0.2 kilogram weight loss per week, sweet. We draw up the next week and see if that trend continues. If it doesn't and we start to plateau, that's when you should start looking at making some changes to your caloric expenditure or training. Now we'll discuss the training later on. In terms of caloric changes, if we see a plateau or even a slight weight gain or whatever happens that's not weight loss, the way you'd want to approach that is very subtle changes over time, okay? We don't want to be scared that we're plateauing a little bit in our weight loss and then cut out 50 grams of carbs for the next week, okay? It's much better to just cut out, say, 5 grams and be very sort of minimal in your changes, and then track the progress based off those changes, okay? So again, this is going to allow us to lose weight on the most amount of calories possible and stay sane, in terms of bodybuilding diets at least, stay sane for the longest periods of time. Because when you get close to that contest day, you're getting to a very low percentage body weight, you're going to want every single calorie you can possibly eat. And that's what this system allows us to do. Now, in terms of making changes to that caloric consumption, as discussed in the nutrition video, our makeup is fats, protein, and carbohydrates. Okay. Now, we want to prioritize our protein consumption and keep it to roughly a gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay. This means that our adjustments is most likely going to come from fat or carbohydrates. Now, determining where you take the calories out, so whether you sacrifice carbs or fats, is pretty much up to you or your coach. My recommendation would be whatever's going to mean that you're more consistent. Okay, so if you're taking out fats, but your diet happens to be sort of a higher fat diet, or you enjoy eating foods that maybe have a higher fat content, then maybe you want to look at cutting out carbohydrates, or vice versa if you're more likely to be adherent on a higher carbohydrate diet. Okay, so it's what's best for the individual, but at the end of the day, we are going to have to take away those calories from somewhere, and fats or carbohydrates should be manipulated in order to achieve that caloric deficit. Okay, so in summary, for that adjustment of calories in terms of weight loss, we want to be very minimal in our reduction in calories and diet on the most amount of calories as possible. Okay, so if we're seeing changes on a specific caloric intake, then you probably won't need to change anything. Just stick to where you are until you plateau, until you hit that wall, and then make small adjustments week by week off that current caloric consumption. Okay. This also brings up the argument I have in making sure you give yourself a lot of time to diet down. Okay, so people looking for general weight loss, you literally have your whole life. Okay, take the time to learn the necessary steps and put them in place. Don't try and crash diet, because that's just going to lead to a binging and fasting sort of mentality. We want to have a very, very systematic approach to it and take your time with it. Work out what works best for you. In terms of bodybuilding, if you are going to approach in this system, we want to give ourselves as much time to diet as possible, okay? Because of those necessary changes that I would advise, those small sort of minimal changes week by week, okay? So literally give yourself at least, I would say, 16 weeks to diet, literally. Some of those weeks might be still in maintenance, just to sort of figure out and get a groove for the system. But I would seriously recommend giving yourself as much time as possible. You're not going to sacrifice all your muscle mass, don't worry, because you are dieting on the most amount of calories possible, so you'll be fine. Okay, I've had people ask me, what if I am tracking my calories and I'm making calorie adjustments, so I'm reducing my calories if I'm plateauing my weight, but my weight still doesn't go down. Okay, what if I'm reducing 10, 20, 50 grams of carbs and I'm still not being able to lose weight? Okay, my answer to that would be there's probably quite a few things going on. There may be some metabolic issues that you need to figure out with your GP, and I would suggest going to a GP first. Or there's an adherence issue. Are you really eating that many calories? Okay, are you sort of tricking yourself or sort of talking yourself into this narrative of, yes, I'm eating this, when really you're not. Okay, you're not being as strict with your tracking of calories as you should be. Okay, and this is more in relation to bodybuilding specific weight loss, where plateaus are more common. But yes, if you're hitting a very, very stubborn wall in weight loss, then you want to look into those things of adherence. Be honest with yourself as to whether you're tracking as closely as you could be, and also any metabolic issues that might be going on or health issues that may be restricting your weight loss. in which case you'd want to go and see a qualified sort of, or dietitian, physician, in order to get advice from them. Okay, so the next strategy I did week by week in my weight loss journey was physique checks. So literally taking a video camera, setting it up, and looking at my own physique. Okay, I know for some people this might be a bit difficult, but it's sort of a pill you have to swallow, a task you just have to do. Set up that tripod, no one else has to know you're doing it. Show your entire 360 physique, exactly what you look like. Get in some good lighting, and be honest with yourself, okay? Are you seeing increases in sort of muscularity or striations where you previously didn't see them? Are you starting to noticeably become slimmer? Sort of just an objective view, okay? Now, for people interested in weight loss in general, this might not be as big an issue. You'll probably get by just looking at the scale. You don't need to be as obsessive over it. With bodybuilding, we want to look at our physique, okay? That's what we're being judged on, okay? So you want to take at least 10 to 15 minutes every week, set up that camera, practice those mandatory poses, and really get an idea as to how your physique is progressing aesthetically week by week by actually looking at the footage. Okay, so that physique update can actually be used to update your training in terms of cardio, because we're looking at more caloric expenditure, or caloric intake. So what we previously discussed, your calorie consumption can also be used to adjust that. So we can take those observations week by week of how the physique is actually looking in order to adjust calories. Okay. Now we want to look at weight and physique updates together. Okay. So we want to consider both things when we're adjusting that caloric intake. In the long term, you probably want to look more on sort of the hard data, so the weekly weight or skin folds, whatever you're using to track fat mass, as opposed to physique updates. But physique updates can really be a good indicator of whether the diet is being successful. Okay, now that we know to look at our calories week by week and look at the weight changes that particular caloric consumption cause, and also we know to look at our physique through a camera lens week by week and notice the changes subjectively, we also want to consider getting a second opinion. Okay, so if we can get all that data, collect all of it, we want to be able to send it to someone who can look at it in a more objective fashion and look at the hard facts of the progress and make necessary adjustments. Okay, so you could be the main decider of whether you actually go ahead with those adjustments, but having someone you can look over your results with is going to be very, very beneficial, and it's just going to give you an extra set of eyes on your progress and someone to keep you honest. Okay, so in my case, that was my coach. I would send everything to him. So I would literally send my calories for the week, my weight for the week, the averages, as well as a posing video. So obviously in that case, it's going to need to be someone you trust. If you're not comfortable sending the video of your physique, then the calories and weight is probably enough. But ideally, you want to send them everything you do week by week in order to track your progress and get their advice. Okay, so my coach would then set those small calorie adjustments or macronutrient adjustments based on my results. Okay, and this was the best way of going about it. So this strategy was great for me because it took some of the weight off of my shoulders. Okay, you want to consider when you're dieting, you're in a fairly, especially for bodybuilding, you're in a fairly vulnerable state psychologically. You may not be the best critical thinker at that time. So definitely having a coach was great for me. Sort of took some of the pressure off my shoulders, and it was a great learning experience as well. Another thing you want to consider is that psychology and your mentality throughout your prep, okay, or throughout your weight loss journey. So what I did was I actually kept a diary, okay, of how I was feeling day to day and how those adjustments in calories affected my mind state, okay? Because that is a big factor in your consistency and adherence to the diet, okay? How are you actually feeling, right? If you're feeling like crap on a day-to-day basis, yes, that has to do with losing weight in general, but maybe some adjustments will need to be made to either your cardio, training, or calories, right? So you don't want to go quiet, and this is another reason to have someone looking over you and looking at the situation objectively. You want to be in the best mind state possible for the situation that you're in, okay? So yes, you're probably not going to be bouncing off the walls with happiness all day, every day. But for the most part, you want to be able to function as a human being and be able to go about your business as per usual, right? So if any of this stuff gets in the way of that, you want to sit down with someone and have a discussion, and you want to look over your notes of your psychology day by day and see where you may be slipping up, or see where maybe there's some sort of unhealthy behaviors going on, right? So that's another thing to consider. Okay guys, so in summary for this video, a typical week of prep is tracking those calories, tracking the nutrition, tracking your weight, or any sort of measurement you use to track weight loss or fat loss, tracking your physique aesthetically, you know, how are you actually looking, and also bouncing ideas off the coach or off another person who can look at the whole process objectively and honestly, okay? And another thing you want to consider is just keeping a log of how you're feeling day by day and considering that when making adjustments to nutrition and training. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and hope to see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.